Hey guys, what's going on? So we're out here in the garage, obviously. So the car's nosed in here in the doorway. And you may be wondering, well, where's that scamp at that was in here? It's right here. So I went, part of the fun or the challenge or the issue or whatever you want to call it of working in a space that's 400 square feet, this is 20 this way, 20 this way, is that you're always having to find space for things. And so I'm constantly having to rearrange and then take things out of here and put them in storage, stuff I'm just not using. You know, I have a tendency to accumulate things like these seats over here. They're out of that car, the blue car, but I can't, they're too heavy to deal with, so I just kind of put them in the corner. A slant six engine here that needs a home in something, but I haven't found that something yet. So got the engine for the scamp, the welder, the trash can. So anyway, I have to be glad for what I got and make do with what I have to work with here. So space is always at a premium. So I got thinking about this. I've had every car so far just kind of nosed in here or backed in, whatever, along this way, and the problem with that is it obstructs the door opening. You just can't use the shop for anything else. So my first action to mitigate some of that was I bought this nice, I think this is a 10 by 10 canopy, and it's there's nothing wrong with it. It's brand new, but I've put a tarp over it. I know it looks kind of redneck, but there's a reason for that. It's because of that the sun and the weather and things falling out of the sky potentially beat on this top, and so whenever the top goes, you have to go buy another one because they're not going to sell you a top, or if they do, it's going to be as much as just buying another canopy. So that's not very smart, I don't think. So I protect the top. It works out well. I've explained this to people on YouTube before that bought stuff like this and it fell on deaf ears. I think it's part of that northern mindset about where we like just buying new things better than we like keeping the old stuff. So down here in the South, we don't have that mentality. We can protect things, even if we have to have, even if we end up living in a tarp village, which is basically what this is. We make it last. Like this shop here, or shop, this little shed thing that I keep all my mowers and everything that's not in there in here. This thing has lasted for at least 3 years because I keep a top on it, over the top of it, and I've seen these things, people stupidly do not do that, and the thing didn't last barely a year. And there again, it's $170 for this thing. So yeah, I have to replace the bungee cords on it and stuff pretty routinely, but hey, you know, it's not that bad of a deal. So anyway, this is the deal. So I got this car in here because I got working on this thing. It's nothing bad, but I got working on it. I went through the cooling system. I put a new set of hoses on it and put a new heater valve on it. Found one on eBay. I couldn't believe that, but I did. And all that stuff, and I ran the valves on it. I noticed a couple people had noticed that the valve lash was really out of whack on it. Had a couple that were really making a lot of noise in there. That's basically what I found. I found a couple that were loose, and then there were some that were tight, and some were okay. So the valve lash obviously hadn't been running a long time, but I did that. I've got the car ready rebuilt. I've already done all that. It runs fine now. Tuned it up, all that stuff. I was, like I said, I've did that and did the brakes, put a master cylinder on it. Master cylinder. Try not to sound like I got a slush mouth. Master cylinder. Put the master cylinder on it, and then put new calipers, new hoses. Did the wheel bearings. But the further I got into this, I realized that I've got this thing's going to have to go further under the knife, big time, because it's got a few things going on with it. Number one, we're going to need to address that oil pressure thing, and I think this engine's pretty dirty inside because I notice the oil is already turning kind of yucky. So, you know, oil has detergent in it, and it is constantly cleaning things out until the detergent package goes on it, and then it just turns to crap. But anyhow, so that needs to be addressed, and so the oil pump needs to come off and be gone through and overhauled and all that. But I think the first thing I'm going to do on it, the reason I got it in here so I've got a good solid concrete surface to work on, not so much for this first part, but the first part is, if you look down in here at this power steering pump, it is nasty. And the reason it's so nasty is because it has a significant leak around the input shaft seal, which is, if the camera would focus on it, it's in there. Take my word for it, but it's running all the way down. It's running down on the K-member, it's just going everywhere. And the pressure line out there is seeping fluid out of itself. The line itself is leaking. And I may or may not have previously mentioned that the good old input seal on the box here is leaking. Every one of these I've ever had that was run for any length of time has had to have that replaced. So I'm an old hat at that. So that's that. So I'm going to go through the power. I'm going to take the power steering pump off and reseal it, and put the new line on it and all that. So that's a chore in itself. But we got more than that. I notice when you look at the front end of this car, this side's not too bad, but I sight down the side of it. I can tell the front end's sitting low, but look here. See how that wheel's leaned in at the top? Well, it's not because it's been adjusted that way. It's because the front end on this car is shot. It is shot. Let me tell you how shot the front end on this thing is. When I move it around in the driveway, it pops and bangs and groans under there. Look at that. You can already see the drips coming off that thing right there. That's horrible. So anyway, back to what I was saying about the front end. So when I was doing the calipers and the wheel bearings, I guess I could have waited on that if I'd known how bad that thing was, but I already had the stuff. But the upper control arm bushings are shot. The upper ball joints are shot. Probably the lower ball joints are shot. At least 2 or 3 tie rod ends are shot. Probably the idler arm is also shot because it's had oil leaking on it off the oil pump. So everything has got to be, every last piece of that front has got to come out. You may remember those extremely poorly done videos I did several years ago on that red car, that red Dart, where I did the front end on it. I feel like that those got enough views that if I think I may be capable now of making a better video. So I think I'm going to attempt to do that, disassembling this front end and all that, and going through it, because I'm just going to replace, you can't, the lower control arm bushings, the lower control arms and the bushings are a pain, because you have to detension, untension the torsion bars, and then I won't say unclip them, but you wouldn't know what I'm talking about. The torsion bars at the back end where they go into the frame back there, they've got these little wire clips on them. You just take them out, and then you can carefully pull them back. But the thing is, they don't just pull back usually. You have to wrap them with something. You can't put marks like from channel locks. Always remember that. You can't put marks like from vice grips or channel locks on a torsion bar, ever. You have to be very careful about that, and you can't mix them up either. So anyway, you have to do that. You have to get the torsion bars out of the lower control arms, and then get those things unbolted, the nut off of them, and get them out, because you can't really see the bushings in them until you get them out. And I'll tell you now, there is no lining, there is no getting a front end lining on this thing if you got, a couple bushings still bad in it. They won't, not only will they not do it, but it won't take an alignment. So it's all over the place. So anyway, so this thing's got to go up on jack stands and be deconstructed, and so the power steering situation is going to lead into that. And then when I get the front end components out of it, then I'm going to have ready access to the oil pan and the oil pump. So you see where this is going, don't you? And then I did the cooling system, and again, sort of, I did this out of sequence. I should have waited, but in my world, you don't normally wait. So anyway, right here is, sorry for the panning and the sighing stuff. It is hotter than hell out here. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But you see these bushings back here. Bushings. I got bushings on the brain. That's another thing. It has to have bushings. It has to have motor mount bushings. They are bad. You look down in there. Oh, let me see if I can look through the... I do not know what you're seeing there. Come on now. Yeah. Out there. That's the spool type. Those are rubber bushings in there. And you can actually rebuild those mounts. And the mounts appear to be getting hard to find. I got a couple here, but they weren't bad. But what I did was I went ahead and just bought a couple of complete mounts, right and left. And I'm going to take these originals off and keep them. And I'll probably buy a set of the inserts. You can actually, allegedly get the inserts out of them and just kind of rebuild them. So I think we're going to do that. So anyway, I'm going to have motor mounts. And I'm probably going to replace the fuel pump, because the fuel pump's the original. The reason I know it is the original is because it had one of those, I don't know what they call those types of clamps, but it's the type that, it's not a worm drive clamp like people use all over the place. It ruins hoses, and it's not the ones like a spring clamp. It's the kind that they take, it's opened up when they put it over the hose. It's opened up and it's got a little tab part of it that's out to the side or the top or whatever. And you take a pair of these special pliers, which I think I have a pair over here as a matter of fact, and you just squeeze down on them. At the factory, I guess that's what they did. They squeeze down and it tightens it up. And you have to physically tear them up to get them off. So that's what was on the hose that went to the fuel pump. So there's no way that that's not the original. So you know how this is going to go. It's working fine now, but as soon as I get this thing going and take off somewhere, it's going to quit, and then I have to dig all the way back in there again. So I have a real thing about original stuff. I think it's awesome. It's still working, but it's who knows how long. I did fix the starter. I think I told you that earlier. But this deal right here, this is where the air conditioning compressor goes, and I don't intend to get the air conditioning functional anytime soon, but I want to put that compressor back on, but I don't have the compressor. So I can locate one, but this is the type, I realized once I started looking at this thing and looking at compressors that people have for sale, what's going on here is these people, when they replace the water pump, this compressor, it uses these mounts back here, and another one I think is missing in there somewhere. And then it's got a huge bracket that comes down, and it bolts onto the water pump, where the water pump bolts on, with several of those bolts. See, that thing's in the wrong place there too, that clamp. So what they did, they just took the thing off and junked it. I don't know where it's at. They didn't have it. And put the water pump back on, a new water pump back on, with the bolts, thankfully. I guess that were in it. I hope they were. I don't know why they wouldn't be, but somebody did that. And so I have to get all that. So I have to replace that. So the water pump has to come off. So I got to get the water pump off. I'm going to take the radiator out. I haven't put coolant back in it, thankfully, but I got to take the radiator back out because they broke one of the mounts in here for it. This radiator has 2 bolts holding it in. Two bolts, and one of them is stripped because they put the wrong one in it. Not a mechanic, okay? Not at all, not even close to mechanic. And let me just say one last thing about this stuff, about this air conditioners. I've already said this previously in another video, but I've never understood this. I've never understood how the air conditioning on an old car truck, apparently to the average guy, it's like either air conditioning on an old car truck, when it works, it's your best friend. When it stops working, it's your mortal enemy, and the only thing you can do to the air conditioning is kill it. Like, kill it, get rid of it, like, destroy it and go away. Make it go away, make it disappear, bury it in a grave somewhere. Conan, you know, what is that? You know, I've heard so many excuses over the years for taking the air conditioner that say, oh, you get better gas mileage without the compressor on. It does not. You would never notice the difference in it. Never. That's lunacy. It's idiocy. And then what these people did, he only said one thing about it. He said, oh, well, they thought it was making it overheat. How? It only can make it overheat when it's running. And if the air conditioner, when this car was sold down in Huntsville in 1975, I guarantee you it ran just fine with the air conditioner on all the time. And you notice it's got a replacement radiator, so probably what happened was it was nothing to do with air conditioning being on or on it, even sitting there on it, not even working. Nothing to do with that, and it was everything to do with a crapped up radiator. It's been that time. That's been the case 100% of the time I've ever seen one of these cars overheat ever. So that nonsense. So they've got rid of the air conditioning compressor. It's gone somewhere. So I've got to take all this out, get the belts off of it, change the water pump because I don't know what kind of shape it's in. It seems fine, but there again, we're just looking at it. It's that old thing about it looks old. It looks old. If you ever replace it because it looks old, that has nothing to do with it. You spend enough time watching videos and reading forums, you'll hear every last lunatic excuse for stuff that is so far off base. It's craziness. It's just complete craziness. But it doesn't matter at this point, really, because I've got to put it on because I don't want to put the air conditioning belts at the very back. So why in the world would I want to put belts on it without getting the air conditioning on and then have to take the belts back off of it? At least they left the hoses here. They're laying across the engine. So anyway, that's my little rant about this deal. You know, just wise up a little bit. Air conditioning compressor it's not out to get you, okay? I see these people, and it's a culture thing, really, I guess, because I see these people down here in the South. It is the weather. I was telling you about the weather. The weather's been horrible. It's been clear, but it's been about 100 degrees every day, and the humidity is horrible. It's horrible weather. It's horrible. You can't do anything outside. You'll die. So I can't come out here till about dark. But if anybody ever tells you to go move to the South to escape the harsh winters, don't believe them. There's a trade-off. You'll suffer. You just won't suffer with the cold. So anyway, but I see these old rednecks riding around down here, and they got some car that probably doesn't have, in this kind of heat, doesn't have air conditioning, and they got the windows down, you know, and they just do it and do it and do it and do it, and they never fix it, you know. It's just some cultural thing about, you know, you can find money for just about anything else, but you cannot find it for air conditioning repair. That was the way Phil is. Phil has spent the last whole entire life never having a vehicle that had air conditioning. Ever. I got the air conditioning working on that Tahoe out there. All I had to is just a simple fix. I got to do the update video on that pretty soon. I'll tell you about it, but it works. No problem. People that had it wouldn't fix it. But that's why they are. That's just the way they are. So anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. I've got a little video that I did a while back, a week or so ago, where the car was actually out there turned sideways. So it's going to look a little bit different than this. So don't be alarmed by that. But I just did a little bit of touching up on some stuff, and a little bit more complaining about poor mechanic skills. I'll say it again. If you don't know what you're doing, don't touch it. Don't touch it. Okay? If you're a lunatic, don't take your lunacy out on a mechanical object, please. Hey. Alright, guys, let's go watch that video. See ya. Okay, it's after school Monday, and I think this is going to be a little bit of a low impact evening, a long day today, and I'm a little tired and sleepy. Didn't sleep real well last night, so I'm going to just pick away at some things that are not too involved. This is one of them. Got a broken marker light. Easy to see, but it's broken. And got a headlamp that is in crooked. I'm not sure how you managed to put a headlight bulb in crooked, but it's over like that. So we'll look at that, and I think we're gonna also see about getting the trunk lock back in it. I had a trunk lock in it as a replacement, and it was in upside down. Not sure it's the right one. I have an original out of something else, which the parts manual says crosses over to this car, meaning it will fit, but you never know about that, so we'll see. So anyway, in the meantime, let's knock a few things out. Alright, so got the marker light done. Now I'm on to this headlight situation. And as is always with stuff like this, I'm exploring the difference between what this is and the way it should have been done. And I don't, I see something kind of strange here. It looks like the clamp wasn't put all the way down where it should have been. It's supposed to be rotated kind of, I think, counterclockwise to lock it in, if I'm not mistaken. Well, yeah, it's supposed to look like that. And somebody's, of course, has not done it right over here. I don't know how you would mess that up, but we're capable of anything. I don't know why that's, there we go. But that doesn't answer the fact that the headlamp is still clocked about 5 degrees clockwise, and it shouldn't be. So, oh, whatever. This one's a halogen, and this one over there is not a halogen. But that's not much of consequence right now. We're just going to see if they work. I know they work, but I haven't. The dimmer switch looks like hell in there, so I don't know if it's actually going to function or not. But we'll try it. We need to test these and see what's that. Well, that was pretty anticlimactic. It's just what I expected. There was nothing broken, nothing wrong. Nothing except that somebody, believe it or not, somebody just put a headlight bulb in the wrong way. They didn't take the time to make sure that it was turned the correct orientation, so the tab's locked into the receptacle, you know, the backing in there that it sits in. That's all it was. I mean, really? If you can't put a headlight in the right way, or you don't take the effort to put one in the right way, you don't need to be working on a car. That's bottom line there. You have no business working on a car. That's one of these things where I can just picture somebody just kind of complaining and sighing and all this crap the whole time about having to do it. Maybe stopped after they took a few screws out and went in the house and sat down for a little bit and came back out and just at arm's length, just trying. I've seen that many times before. Maybe you're one of those, you know, that just, you don't want to be doing any of it. It's too much effort for you. So you just kind of shove it in there, get it, and you're done, and you're worn out after changing this headlight. That's useless. That's all that is. You're never going to cut it working on cars. If you do that, don't ever try to work on a car. Don't ever try to restore one, that's for sure. That's all it was. Put this back together and move on. All right, well, you know what? They did not lie. The parts book, and I've lubricated that. These hinges got to have some work done on them, I guess. But the parts book said that a trunk lock cylinder from a 1973 Plymouth Valiant, which I used to have and kept the parts off of, will fit a 1975 Dodge Dart Swinger, which this is. And this is the factory parts books, not the ones from the online at O'Reilly's or something. So anyway, it went right in there. And notice, if you will, notice the way that rod is oriented. That's not, as far as I know, it's never been apart. It kind of comes off the lock and it bends kind of up a little bit at the end. And you put the key in like so, like any kind of Chrysler product of this era. Goes in upside down. Works good. So notice that. Now let's give it a test, and I hope this thing doesn't get stuck closed or something, because I don't know how I'd ever get in this trunk if it doesn't open up again, but we'll see. That part I know works. Now we got to see if it will actually unlock. Look at that. Like the factory intended. One thing I have to figure out how I'm going to tighten this big this big old nut in there up. I don't even figure that one out, but it's that'll be interesting. All right, so that said, you know me, of course, I don't complain much, and I don't try not to ever point anything out that somebody did wrong, but I just can't help myself. So this is the set of keys I had with this car, and this is the trunk cylinder that was in it. And when I took all this out, well, when I was fooling with it, I realized that when I put the trunk key in, it went in like all other cars. It went in like that, with the with the trunk lock cylinder in the way it was put in. So obviously the trunk lock cylinder was in upside down. But you notice the orientation of this rod matches what's in there now, even though this would be in upside down. So evidently, somewhere, somehow, somebody managed to put that rod on the wrong way. All it is a piece of wire there. And again, I don't try to be mean to people on purpose, but I can't help it. I don't understand that. How can somebody take something off a car, and probably the old one was, if it wasn't destroyed, it was probably there, and just have to just look at it, maybe they lost the key or something, I don't know. But, as old as this car probably was at the time, and many hundreds of times they put the trunk lock key in and knew that it was upside down like every other lock on this. But when they put this one in, the way they put it in, it was not upside down, and it was loose also. So how would you do that? How can people be so blithe about stuff and just say, well, this key's not upside down. Oh well, I couldn't. I put stuff back the way it was intended to go. It's not hard to do that. I could have fixed this. I just didn't want this, generic key in there, because that's the ignition key, which is the original Chrysler key. And then now these are the keys from that Plymouth that I used to have. And I still have all the doors and the ignition are on one key, which is this one. So now I still have this key to the original ignition lock cylinder and the door locks, which I kept, of course. How many times did I say that? 3 or 4. Guess what? I still have them. Anyway, but now I can take this key off, which is the original Chrysler trunk key, and take that key off and put this on with it, and I have perfect match. So you would never know. That is so invisible now, what I'm doing, that you would never know. If you bought this car years away from now, you would never, unless you watch this video right now, you would never, ever, ever, ever know that trunk lock was not the original. And I just love stuff like that. It's not that I'm any super mechanic, it's just that, a little bit of effort goes a long way. If you ever watch Waylon Wyer's videos, you'll realize too, he believes in that. A little effort goes a long way, and a lot of effort goes a real long way. And so I can't help it. I have to do that. It's my calling. I'm driven to succeed with this. But anyway, so it's getting dark and I'm about to go in. But I did get the headlights back in. Everything was fine there, and I fixed up one of these little clamps under there. It's real dark here, isn't it? For the wiring harness. Got that put back where it goes. I put on I went into my stash and found a spare overflow tube. Normally this car has an overflow jug over here, but these are getting to be pricey, like really pricey. So for right now, I'm not going to invest that kind of money in it. So I just got myself another clamp. You can't see it. I'll show you when it's light. And put it on. And it looks, again, 90% of the people would never even think differently that this is not the original setup. And that radiator cap, I don't know if I've ever said before, but You know how Mortsky hates flexi hoses? Well, I don't like them either. And I don't use them. But my special, if you would call it, hatred, or whatever you want to use the word, on cooling system, is these stupid these flip-top caps on these. Every one of these I ever get goes either in a box someplace, or I give it away, or it goes in the garbage. It sticks out like a sore thumb. I've even heard people say that they were factory, and that's not. No. So anyway, I got the original. This is actually not a Mopar cap. I thought I had one, but this is the correct style for it. It's a 16-pound caps, styled the same way, and it's a good cap. So that's the one that's going to go on there. I'm kind of piecing this thing together out of my part stash. So trying to fix things, use up my parts, because I've went through my modern. I've got a box in there. All it is like post 1971 or 2 parts, and I found several things that this car needs. So I always keep parts like that. So all right. I think tomorrow, good Lord willing, if the weather holds out, the weather's supposed to turn kind of crabby, but I think one thing I'm going to do tomorrow, if I can, or later on, is I'm going to work on these door hinges, because I know the detents are frozen up solid on them with rust, and this door does not close all the way. It sits too low. The hinges are not terribly loose, but it's just kind of funky, as I've heard somebody say recently. It's a good word. If something's not working right, it's funky. It's real funky. The situation was real funky. Alright guys, well, I guess I'm going to call it for this evening. I was kind of groggy when I came out here. Now I'm kind of pepping up. I could probably keep on working, but I'm going to go in and see what our... Hey, look, there's the wabbits. See what our good friends on YouTube are up to this evening. So there's been a few changes here in the scenery. I don't really like change very much, but I've tried to be as accommodating as possible, because I really like where I live and like my landlords and stuff like that, so it's no problem at all. But they took out these trees back here. There used to be a line of trees stretching down there, and they I guess they like open territory. So it's kind of ragged looking back here, but I'm pretty sure it's going to start growing back here, over the summer. They never really know anything was done to it. But they did save this tree and this tree. That was important to me. And I'm so suspicious about people working in a environment where even if you tell people what they need to do, they either do it the wrong way or they don't do it, or whatever. They put ribbons around. He put ribbons around here to keep them from knocking these trees down with the bulldozer. But I was suspicious that would be misunderstood or misconstrued, so I put signs out here that says "Do not remove." And then they were out here one day working on this, so I came home and I parked my car right here. I know, you just say, "Oh, that's silly. You shouldn't be suspicious." I'm telling you, it's not born out of just natural suspicion so much as it's just, I've worked for the same company for 20 years, and I have gotten long ago firsthand knowledge that, like I said, maybe they're good, well-intentioned people, but people will either mistakenly or on purpose ignore your instructions. So, I come home, my trees be knocked down, and we thought those ribbons meant that those were supposed to come out. Sorry, we'll put them back. Sorry. So anyway, I just make sure you have to knock my car over to get to them this time, but they didn't touch them. I shouldn't say anything because I get carried away. I start kidding about stuff and being silly. I'm one of these things I say, "Yeah, I got you now. I'll put my car in there. You can't even get there unless you wreck something." There's nothing even close to that. Everything was fine. they are over here. They did a whole bunch of earth moving because their house is up here now, and this area over here was not. It looked flat, but it was not flat. I think it kind of came down, and it kind of was a low spot right there, and then rose up gradually, and then about where that deer feeder is down there. Right down there, it goes. It looks like there's trees right there, but it's not. It actually goes. It drops off fairly significantly right there. So the idea was to get. I was talking to my landlord. The idea was to get the water to flow away from the house because they have a basement and they don't need to have water problems, I'm sure. So, but anyway, all right, guys. Well, it's been a fun little conversation, one-sided conversation here. Just rambling on. I've got to kind of clean up this little corner right here because I had trees around this and it wasn't obvious, but now it's like it's sitting right out here on the corner of the wide open spot, and I'm kind of conscientious about that. I don't like people having to look at stuff that's kind of yucky looking, but this stuff, I've hung on to some of this. Some of this is recycles, like I recycle oil and chemicals, and then I've got a lot of metal and some old hubcaps and just stuff, that, I'm not going to throw it away because it may never be used, but it's here if it needs it. And I kind of try to keep my hoarding of parts dialed back a little bit. I don't just, everybody has their thing that they do, but mine is not just spending all my spare time looking for parts. I don't normally spend time looking for parts unless I absolutely physically, not physically, but purposely need a part, like a windshield or something like that, and then I go looking. Or if I find what I call a pick, like a car in a junkyard, I'll pick parts off of it because, like I said, around here, this is not Mopar. This is not Mopar territory around here. People don't get the parts usually, so I try to save them and just pass them on. Alright guys, well, I'm going to go in, I think, and relax a little bit. And I don't think I'll put this video up today. I'll try to space some time out, but it's a lot of content on this car. This thing needs, well, I was going to say it needs a significant amount of work. It does. The car is solid. There's nothing going on with it that I didn't expect. So I've had a lot of fun so far with it, getting the engine running right and fixed up. I'm about to do the cooling system on it when the parts come in and all that. It's not going to be restored. I'm just going to tidy it up, like they say up north at the pot smoking part of Canada up there. I'm going to fix that molding and find another molding and, just like I said, tidy it up and make it look presentable, clean the paint up, and try to address any water leaks. I think the water leaks, that's one thing I need to do also. I need to test that. I saw something took these floors out, and on these cars it's more often the fact that the doors and windows don't seal very good because of the hinges sag, so the glass is not sealing like it should, or it's the wiper shaft seals, which these I saw rust on one of them and some water dripping in that area in a rainstorm. So I've already ordered the kit, so that I think that's going to need to be done. Not to mention the fact that I tried the wipers out one day and they went back and forth a few times and I heard a loud clank from under the dash, and this one stopped working, so I think something fell off under there. But we'll get into that. Just a lot of little stuff. And the big thing, here's my plan, and I don't, like I said, I've said before, I don't normally like to talk about plans because plans change, but I've got this car to get going all the way, and I've got that 69 Dart over there to finish up mechanically, and I think I'm going to try to just concentrate on these two, and the other car of course, but I think I'm going to concentrate on these two to get them up and running mechanically and drivable, and do that, and then just that way I can concentrate on nothing but body work stuff, like doing my favorite thing, fixing rusty trunks and quarters and all that, but do not have to come back to come back and do this on this car, do that on that Dart mechanical. I want to be done with it all, so that may take up quite a bit of time doing that, but y'all don't mind that, do you? I did notice also, while we're talking about this, that this car's got a very worn out front end on it. I think it's going to have bushings all the way through it, because I know it's got the control arm bushings are worn out, the upper ball joints are worn out, at least one of the tie rod ends is worn out. So that's, you know, years back we went through on that red Dart that I had, that Sport. I had to do the whole kit and caboodle on that. And it's not fun, but it's not expensive. But we need to do that and work on the leaks, transmission leak, power steering leaks in multiple places, all that, and the oil pressure situation. So anyway, fun stuff. So you know, you get into something like this and it seems kind of daunting, but not for me. I just take it one piece at a time. So all right, I'm really going to go this time and talk more than I'm used to talking. So all right, I'll see you on the next one. Have a good one.